and gentlemen, welcome to the Testing Podcast. I'm
Here we
Toby
go
Trice, and here is your host.
Sperm.
Look after it. You know it.
That is going to be absolute gold.
Keep 'em cool, boys.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Testing Podcast. My name's Toby Trice, and we're here to talk all things fertility. Testing 1.
Testing 2.
Testing 3.
Test him for.
Yes, we have
Yes,
another
well
Testing 4
done.
in the studio today. Welcome to Claire Mooney from Fertility Solutions.
Thank
How
you.
you doing? All right?
I'm fine. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
It's an honour.
More than welcome.
It's an honour to have you. Thank you for carving out your busy schedule to
Hardly.
spend some time with us. It really means a lot.
Yeah. It
Great.
did take a little bit of jiggling to get you here, I think, mainly on our behalf because, well, somebody crashed a car.
Oh, yeah.
That stuff.
Oh, yeah, that
that's
did
one episode up, didn't
I
it?
was a bit unwell last time.
God.
Sorry.
Don't worry.
Oh, dear.
But no, thank you so much for joining us, Claire. So you are, let's hope I get this right, an embryologist by training, is that right?
By training, I think that's a good way of putting it, Ian. Originally an embryologist.
Yeah.
Not so much now. I think I've kind of moved on, and I probably call myself more of a specialist andrologist these days. But yes, originally I was an embryologist for 15 years.
Wow. So how did you kind of end up in the world of sperm and like building your own clinic? So you've got your own
Yeah.
clinic here based in Beaconsfield, aren't you? You work very closely with Jonathan Ramsey.
I do. I'm lucky enough to do that.
Yeah. So how did that all come about?
It found me, actually. I didn't find sperm. Sperm found me.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly. I was doing a degree in Liverpool in zoology, and in our last year of our project, you have to do a project and you have to do something. Dung beetles was my option, and I didn't fancy watching a load of beetles roll the dung across everywhere for, I don't know, for a year. So I wandered over to the Liverpool Women's Hospital, and it was just been built. I went up to the 3rd floor, thought, oh, IVF. Oh, that sounds interesting. Walked through the door, sat in the waiting room, and Ewan Lewis-Jones was in there. Amazing andrologist. And he said, what are you doing here? I said, I just need a project. You know, I don't want to do dung beetles. So I ended up talking to Ewan Lewis-Jones for about an hour. He said, we've got this Hobson sperm tracker thing that no one knows how to use.
Right.
It's sat there for a year. If you find out how to use it, write us a manual. We'll let you do a project on sperm. And I thought, bloody hell, that sounds amazing. Let's do that. So I did it and learnt how to use it. Met Jeff Hobson, naughty as a fruitcake, and just learnt how to use this new machine. And rest is history. Really, they gave me all the donor sperm, patient sperm, compared it for swimming, stayed there. Actually, you know, the strange thing actually is that I went in there and I probably came out about a year later.
Right.
I used to go home and go to bed and, eat, and then I used to come back to the hospital. So, yeah. And I met a woman called Christine Goston as well who helped me with that. She's a geneticist. She was doing a load of work with, she was in Africa purifying water. And every now and again she'd come and talk to me about it. So that's where it happened. And then I was kind of in an IVF clinic. So I thought, oh, this looks all right. I could do this as well. So, yeah, that's how I originally got into it.
From dung beetles.
Dung beetles to
beetles
sperm.
to
Beetles
sperm.
rolling dung.
That is
to-
the maddest fact I think we've had on this podcast.
I think it is. It is.
So it kind of found me,
Yeah.
and I loved it. And then I did my master's over in Hammersmith, and I just also fell into sperm projects with Kevin Lindsay, a lovely guy who was very passionate about sperms, retired now. And I don't know, I've just always gravitated towards it. It's strange. Again, the project in the master's was, embryos, genetics, or sperm, and I thought, oh, I'll do that. So I've always been fascinated by something that you can change. I'm not really, I don't know, I suppose human eggs, you can't really change them. You're born with them. I'm 50, never going to have any more kids. Eggs, dead. I like the idea about something that can be changed and improved.
Yep.
And that's probably why I've kind of gravitated towards it.
And obviously that was a little while ago. I think you said off air beforehand. You've been in the game for 30 years or so.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I don't like
1994.
admitting
But I'm always interested in how was the industry? What is it like back then? In terms of were there many people working in the sperm industry, so to speak? Was there much research? Was there much science? Because obviously we're
Great
here
question.
now doing what we're doing
Yeah.
and what you're doing and all the other great people in the industry. And there's definitely a huge or there's a lot more interest in male factor and sperm and the technology now. What was it like 30 years ago?
Well, I don't know. I mean, we all know that there isn't enough interest in male fertility. I mean, we are all here for that reason. What was it like? I suppose, I think ICSI came along in 1992. I was 1994. So we were just coming out of the researching into male fertility. I think when I first started, there was still quite a lot going on. We were still looking at how sperm swam and I suppose, in the machine and everything. But I mean, I saw very quickly that tailed off as soon as ICSI arrived because people stopped investigating whether we needed inhibitors to increase motility in sperm, that they stopped looking into sort of the genetics of sperm. So I don't know. I think it was, I hesitate to say this, Ian, I don't want to sound negative, but I think it's quite similar to how it is now, a little bit sort of female focused. And I was quickly sort of moved into the female focus. But yeah, I mean, I think I probably just hit the tail end of it all because we didn't have ICSI. So we had to investigate male fertility. We had to work out how to improve motility and improve IVF working. I mean, IVF was only probably 14 years before I actually sort of came into the industry. So it was still emerging, but it was quite similar. I mean, I think the biggest change has happened in the last 5 years. I've seen that. Fertility Solutions started 10 years ago, and I was still getting calls along the lines of, "Oh, I need a sperm test. Can you do a quick sperm test for me?" But now things are changing. People are now ringing me saying, "Can you help me improve my sperm? Can you help me work out what's wrong with it first?" So I think the biggest change in my 30-year career since I started my degree has really been in the last 5 years.
And do you think that sounds to me that's more patient driven, i.e. patients feel more empowered to come and ask the questions?
Yeah.
What do you think's been the change for that?
I think the change for that has been social media, people talking, people reading, listening to podcasts like this, people taking back the power of themselves and realizing that, I think that's happened in the health industry in general. People read, I mean, I Google something wrong with my body, I'm straight on Google.
Dr. Google.
Dr. Google, here it comes.
We talk about
That's
Dr. Google all the time, don't we?
So I think what's changed is people talking about it more. Maybe men are talking about it more. I mean, I'm 50. My generation still doesn't talk about it. Not really. But my brother's generation, who's 10 years younger than me, does more. And I had a guy actually yesterday who phoned me to say, "I've just been having a chat with my friend in the gym, and he said that I should come and see you." That's probably only the 4th time that's happened, but it is now happening.
It is now,
because I think maybe younger generation are actually more used to talking about their health.
They're more pro-health, aren't they? They're more pro-looking after themselves.
Yes. I actually rarely speak to anybody who smokes. Rarely. Poor diet still, yes, but rarely ever speak to anyone who smokes. So, but I think the biggest change is happening now. I think it's a very exciting time for male
access
fertility.
to information. Yeah.
Must be down to all these awesome podcasts about.
I think it probably is.
It could be just us.
We're just sitting here fishing for compliments, basically.
Yeah, that's it. I think you might have got one
there.
But it is true, isn't it? It's so important. I mean, we've definitely seen a shift in the last few years that we've been working together that men do feel more comfortable talking about this sort of what was a taboo topic. And us guys historically have been pretty rubbish about talking about these kind of topics. I talk to my dad, and my dad kind of gets all a bit weirded out talking about these kind of things.
Yeah, my dad used to as well.
That's it, because it's, again, like you said, generational, I think, isn't it?
Yeah.
But thankfully we are in a bit more of a modern way now that we can talk a bit more freely.
Yeah.
A bit more openly.
And at the end of the day, it's nothing to be ashamed of, because sperm is part of our
well, we need it.
Yeah, we are here because of sperm.
Yeah.
I always say to people, it's just another organ.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you have a problem with your stomach or your heart, your liver, your kidneys, you're going to go and see a specialist. And I think that's how we always describe it. Say it's just another organ. It's your testicles are just more organs in your body that can fail. I mean, if you think about the millions of sperm that are made every minute, every day in a man's testicle, it's not really surprising that would be the same. That there can be issues there.
Yeah.
So I think that.
And so obviously you said Fertility Solutions has been going for about 10 years.
It has.
Yeah, amazing. Congratulations. That's
Yeah,
good.
well done.
what's your remit? What do you, because we send a lot of patients your way, but you know, for those that haven't heard of you and haven't heard of the clinic, I mean, where have they been?
Yeah.
But why would a couple rock up and see you, or why would a guy come to you? What's your kind of, what do you do at Fertility Solutions?
Well, I think what we do is, well, first of all, we're an independent fertility clinic that you know, if patients need IVF, we refer them. So we're not an IVF clinic per se. So I think that what we do is we look after the man from the very beginning. If I'm lucky enough that the couple finds me and they haven't had any treatment elsewhere or they haven't had any problems elsewhere, then I usually am lucky enough to go from the very beginning with them. And after we've done the semen analysis, talk to them about those results and give them the latest understanding and thinking on male fertility, exactly what it means or doesn't mean. Try and be as least invasive as we possibly can, because for a lot of couples, you know, they don't need fertility treatment to conceive. They usually actually need to have more intercourse. I do find that most people that don't have enough intercourse or are using sticks to try and time that. So for us, we do a test, but then we also explain what that test means, review all of the results, and give the couple, you know, advice, and try and move things forward for them as naturally as possible. Because I do believe that most people still get pregnant naturally when they have more intercourse, when they stop peeing on sticks to see when they're ovulating. I suppose what we do is we do understand that the male side of things is almost the place to start, because you can change sperm. Sperm are hugely changeable. And because they're constantly being made, a woman's born with all of her eggs. It's hard to change a woman's fertility. I mean, a woman can change her fertility by losing weight, being healthier. But ultimately, what she's got in her eggs is what in her ovary is what she's got. But with testicles, that isn't the case. They make sperm all the time
Constantly
and can change.
evolving,
Constantly evolving. It's a little factory. Yeah, it's beautiful factories.
Yeah.
So that's what we do. We start with the man for the benefit of everybody, and and just try and understand, you know, what's going on from the very beginning. And then if it's not right, refer people to amazing consultants that I've spent 30 years finding. I've assembled the Avengers.
Yes, the Avengers of sperm.
Avengers assemble. And you've
like
obviously
here.
had Jonathan on here before, Mr. Ramsey and Jazz Kelsey. And we refer to amazing fertility consultants, gynecologists that get the male side as well. So that's what we're here doing, really. We're here kind of triaging almost. I see
Triaging
myself
and
as
optimising, aren't you,
triaging.
really?
Yeah.
And a
Trying to-
patient's quite surprised when they come and see you, and that there is so much. Obviously, they've come to you because they're focusing on male factor, but they're then quite surprised how in depth it is and what you cover.
Very.
Yeah. And are they coming to you like pre-treatment, or you seeing patients post-treatment? And probably
All
a mixture,
kinds.
I guess. Yeah.
So pre-treatment is people that think they just need a quick sperm test, and if we're lucky enough to explain to them, it's not just a quick sperm test that you need, especially if you've been trying for longer than 6 months to a year and your partner's over 35. It's about bespoking things. You know, I think too often with semen analysis, it's one size fits all. I mean, the first thing I say to the guys is, you know, up to 15% of men have a normal semen analysis and they are infertile. So this is not a test that you can rely on to tell you whether you're a fertile man or not.
So true.
You know, pregnancy is fertility. It isn't a semen analysis. And every man I speak to is very surprised by that. They think that they're going to tell
It's
them
a really
it's
important
yes or no.
factor, though, isn't it? I think for listeners out there, you know, you can't just rely on one semen analysis alone to understand whether you're in a fertile window or not, and not go and seek further advice. Because if you're still not being able to conceive every month and so forth, then actually there could be some underlying issues. And we know that a semen analysis isn't be all and end all,
It's
is
not
it?
binary.
No.
So people expect it, Michael, to be binary. When I say, they always expect me to say, good news, you're fertile, or bad news,
pass or
you're
fail.
not.
Yeah.
I mean, the only time that semen analysis can do that is when there's no sperm. I mean, even when there's some sperm, bit of, you know, motility issues, shape issues, it's quite a basic test to have. It's literally like going into your cardiologist's, I don't know, office and saying, oh, my heart's beating a bit fast. And for them to say, do you know what? Here's some walnuts and, you know, and some vitamins, and you'll be fine. I mean, you'd think that that everyone had gone mad. So semen analysis really it should only be a first line test.
And it's a snapshot, isn't it?
It's a snapshot. Yes.
Yeah.
To say, is there sperm there or isn't?
I always think it's a bit like a beauty pageant. It's like,
yeah,
there they are. Look,
you've got some, well done, you're a man.
Yeah, you've got some. Look at them. Those ones look
Don't
pretty.
worry.
Those ones are swimming well.
Human sperm isn't going to win any beauty contest. That's the problem. I mean, you look at bull sperm, mouse sperm, horse sperm.
Yeah.
It's all beautiful, fabulous, going in one direction.
Yeah.
Really?
But it's really normal for us to have abnormally shaped sperm.
Yeah.
Really?
I mean, it's a social pair bonding thing.
Yeah.
It completely relates to the fact that if you're a mouse, your parent will be there for about 5 minutes and then you're on your own. If you're a human, your parent needs to be there for, I was going to say 18 years then, but who are we kidding? It's not 18
right.
years.
No, it's pretty much for life,
35
isn't it?
years.
It's for life, isn't
So
it? Really?
I think it's more to do with sort of how we are as humans and what it takes to raise a human. And, you know, I mean, obviously we're not bonobo chimps. We don't walk around and then our noses go red when we're ovulating. We're quite a specific species in that way. And I think sperm personally is quite similar. Is quite designed like that, almost designed to not be that great sometimes.
Interesting thought.
I mean, like ovaries are not attached to fallopian tubes. I mean, we're very reproductively inefficient. It's a miracle any of us.
Well, it is. It's a miracle that we're all sat here around the table today, isn't it? Really, in many
life
ways.
is a miracle, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
In many
but
ways.
then you compound it with other issues,
agreed.
which pretty much are not really understood sometimes. And that's what we're trying to do, is make sure that, you know, guys need to know that you're more than just a semen analysis when it comes to your reproductive health.
But also they're more than just a semen analysis.
Exactly.
I mean, as we all know, you can. I mean, we speak to Olympic athletes that are busy, really caning their lifestyles, and then wondering why their sperm isn't very good because they're busy having ice baths, hot baths, and you know, exercising to the point of depletion. I think it's really about understanding the person you're speaking to rather than just looking at a piece of paper. I mean,
because that's a big part of your role as well, isn't it? Is that you spend that time consulting with the patient, and we talked about this on the phone this week, didn't we? That you spend that time with the man to understand them, their lifestyle, all the factors. I mean, we've talked a lot about the semen analysis, but you then look at all the other tests as well, so DNA frag and infection screening, all that. But it's about that whole picture, isn't it, of the whole man?
Well, I mean, DNA frag has really changed things. So if we think about what's changed things in the industry, patients have changed it, but DNA fragmentation testing has massively changed it because now we have an actual test that looks at the genetic health of the sperm and we can show the man, look, your semen analysis seems to be normal, but your DNA fragmentation test tells a different story. And there's damage at the genetic level, and sperm are DNA with a tail, right? That's the most fundamental component of them.
It's that package, isn't it?
It is crazy, isn't it?
Delivery system.
I mean, you can have a beautiful, I don't know, I saw a Maserati on the way here.
Nice.
A new one.
Here we go.
Sorry, I did.
It's making Toby smile already.
No. I quite like cars too. So I saw a Maserati on the way here. But of course, if I'm driving that Maserati, you'd be maybe a bit in trouble. I mean, I'm not a great driver, but if Toby's driving the Maserati.
Well, I think that's questionable.
No. I mean, you know what I mean, right?
Like
you know, if you know how to, you don't.
No, he does. I think he does.
Yeah. So you know that it's got a better chance of getting around the track fast, and it's the same with DNA. Yeah. It doesn't matter what sperm look like; it matters what they're actually doing at the functional level.
Yeah, it's an interesting analogy.
So that's what's changed things for us is the fragmentation test. In fact, I'd quite like GPs to just do that test.
Oh,
I
so
mean,
would
really,
we.
just. And then maybe go to a semen analysis afterwards if you need to.
It's a real interesting one, isn't it? Because I always look at it in two halves, and I've got my hands out again. I won't go through it. I won't go through my
Keep your mind down here on purpose.
But
they're busy moving.
But it's almost that we do need those complementary two different tests, don't we?
Yeah.
We need to know if things are moving and we've got enough and so forth. But we also need to know what that DNA integrity is like, because if it's not there, we're not going to be able to create babies. So you might be right, actually. Do we just rely on a DNA integrity test rather than looking at all the other measurements, because they're almost irrelevant, aren't they? If you've got no genetics for creating a baby, what's the point in having lots that,
because that's the bit that packs the punch, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's the bit that starts life.
That's right.
I think that's what's changed things. And I mean, you know, obviously we're making things a little bit less costly because DNA frag is so much more expensive than doing a semen analysis. So Yeah, I mean, that's what I want to see. I want to see patients having that as a standard before they do anything else, before they go anywhere near a fertility clinic or anything, just to understand what's going on. Because by doing that, you can say what's happening. Do we need to change lifestyle? Do we need to refer to urology? Do we need to get them a scan of their testicles? I mean, with women, I actually think fertility clinics do a reasonably good job with women. You get a scan, you get some blood work, you get counseled usually, you get lots of investigations into any sort of infections or otherwise. But I think just to look at sperm and then to say that everybody's sperm is the same when we all know that, you know, we've all got different bodies here and we all look after them differently, and, you know, it's too blanket to say, you know, this equals this.
It's not enough just to say, just because you've got one, that's all right for IVF or ICSI.
Yeah, that's right.
It's not enough, I don't think. So
I've done millions of ICSI, not millions, but thousands.
Yeah.
And you can't select a sperm based on the genetic health of the sperm.
No, you just go by looks. It's back to the beauty pageant.
That's it, back to the beauty pageant.
It's back to, you know, what looks nice and what's moving.
Exactly.
And that's often the difficulty, isn't it? Because you get so many that are not moving, and actually they may be more competent than the ones that are.
Yeah,
very true.
But the more sperm you have that are better, then the more chance you've got of that embryologist. If you do need, you know, ICSI, you know, treatment, the better chance you've got of actually being successful.
Yeah, or just conceiving naturally. The more sperm you've got and the more healthy they are.
Well,
if you've optimized
our natural
them.
conception rate's very high.
Yeah.
I mean, just having more intercourse. I always say to people, just tell me honestly how many times you're having intercourse in a month.
Yeah. Well, we talked about the F word, didn't we, this week on the Instagrams?
Frequency.
There
yes,
you go.
I was wondering what the hell they were going to say there.
Need to press the button, didn't we? No.
What the hell?
What happens in our WhatsApp chat?
Yeah. You did put it out there, though.
Yeah. On our Instagram, we're doing A to Z this year of fertility, and so we've had E for ejaculation. So we talked about the average ejaculate and that kind of side of things, and then F was frequency, and just highlighting that. This was more about sperm quality, actually, about the fact that men need to ejaculate regularly, that, you know, storing them up.
Well, that's something that's new. I mean, that's super new.
Yeah.
That's something that Jonathan worked out.
Yeah.
Really?
You know that 100%.
Yeah.
He was the one who worked out that ejaculating frequently is important for fragmentation levels to come down.
And it's interesting, isn't it? Because some of the fertility clinics have picked up on it as
have.
well.
That's
and,
right.
You know, when you're sort of providing a sample, sometimes you're needing the second ejaculate almost straight after the first one in order to provide a good sample, because often you want to just clear away any debris and various other muck that might be in there. Not muck, but, you know, just debris.
Sperm has been there too long.
Yes, if it's been stored. But, you know, almost a frequent ejaculation after your first one in the same day can actually produce better results. So
honestly,
some clinics have picked up on that and are actually advocating it.
But I think that it just makes sense, doesn't it? I mean, we live in a world of Amazon Prime and, I don't know, electronics for everything. And, you know, I mean, our bodies have not changed at all in hundreds of thousands of years. You know, if we met 100,000 years ago, we'd be wearing different clothing, probably hitting each other over the head, I don't know, running after each other.
Sounding very different.
Sounding very different, that's right. But our bodies would be very similar.
Yeah.
So I think that I always say to my patients, just try and imagine it's 200, 300 years ago. You know, have more intercourse there. You know, let's face it, 200 years ago, there was no lights, TV, phones. What else was there to do in the evenings, ultimately? But I think we are having less intercourse as a species. We're certainly not listening to our bodies in the way that, you know, other generations, I think, have. And we're also trying to have children later in life than ever before.
Yeah,
I mean,
careers have definitely got in the way, haven't they? And being able to have enough money to live.
I'm one of 4 kids. My mum had me at 23 and, you know, obviously my grandmother had her at 21 and I had my son at 33. And there's a massive difference between a body of 23 and a body of 33.
Yeah.
So we need that sperm to be even better quality because the human egg has less ability to deal with any problems at the genetic level as it gets older.
Yeah.
So it becomes, I mean, everyone always says to me, oh, you're so into men and sperm. I'm like, no, I'm not.
Yeah.
You know, I'm also here for the woman because the longer we leave it, without knowing what's going on, or improving the sperm, or giving them a better chance of IVF working, the older they are getting and the less chance. So it's almost a cycle that perpetuates itself.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely a couple's fertility, isn't it? And that's what we should be really focusing on, and focusing equally on the man as well as the female fertility issues. And I think if we did that more routinely, we'd have far better outcomes, wouldn't we?
But people are always on the back foot when they're talking to me, Michael, because it's so logical, right?
Well, it is to me, and it is to us, isn't it?
Making sperm, improving sperm, not drinking yourself, smoking yourself, and heating your testicles up. I mean, we've just done Celebrity Save Our Sperm on Channel 4, and literally the whole thing was about testicular temperature. It was about lots of things, but it's about testicular temperature more than anything else. Testicles hang outside of the body for a reason.
For a reason, yeah.
It's a very inconvenient reason if you've ever been, kicked in them or had a sporting injury. But they hang outside of the body because sperm production happens at 34, 35 degrees. It's a well-known fact. So keeping your testicles cool is just...
We've got some special pants coming for that soon.
The snowballs?
No, cool beans. They're called cool beans.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, cool beans.
Oh, that'll be interesting.
Yeah. I'd imagine by the time this goes out, they'll be live on our store. But they're specially designed pants that have got like a little mesh pouch.
Are you going to wear them for a bit? I always make my team wear it.
Yeah, we've all got them.
We've got a pair of them. We've got a pair in the cupboard. So we'll show you them later.
Oh my God! Help me, listeners.
I'm not wearing mine today.
Ian's our model.
I'm just meaning the underpants, not wearing them.
This conversation has not gone the way I thought it was going. Let's go back.
Do they ever?
We're here to remove the stigma, aren't we?
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah, we've all got
keeping things cool
beans.
is definitely the way to do it, isn't it?
Yeah, keeping things cool and just understanding that sperm are just made constantly. There's so much you can do to change them. 90 days later, you change what you're doing, and 90 days later, your sperm are completely changed.
And I think guys quite like that little project in some ways, don't they? Like we like numbers and figures and results and stats. It's like, okay, how can I improve this? So you see your sperm as a little project. It's like, right, I'm going to spend the next 3-4 months doing X, Y, and Z.
Definitely.
And then see how my results have changed. I think it's quite rewarding in some ways.
We've seen some people actually change their lives accordingly, haven't they?
Oh, good, yeah, massively.
Doing like the fertility PT, for example, and various other people that we've met. We do like projects, don't we? We want to get involved and say, right, okay, let's take some responsibility here, and then just work at it. So.
But it is crazy not to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, and also obviously problems with your fertility can mean problems with your body. You can have diabetes, you can have issues, genetic issues with your body. So not actually investigating things is, I don't know, I hesitate to use the word, irresponsible, but I think it probably is, right? Absolutely. Because if a man's got a lump on his testicle and he thinks, is that a problem or not? Wouldn't it be nice to just get those testicles sort of examined, I suppose, in the same way as a woman's uterus and ovaries are examined, just in case it might be cancer.
Yeah, I mean, might not be, but
it might. Oh no, it usually isn't. To be fair, it usually isn't, but it can be.
But it's something to watch out for, and that's what we try to do with our collaboration with Ultrasound Direct, isn't it? It really is to really encourage guys to go and get a testicular scan,
and it's reasonably priced,
and it's reasonably priced. And if there's any concerns, you do need to go and get referred to the right physician, which is not a gynaecologist for most men.
No, funny that, isn't it?
Funny that. Yeah.
It is a bit crazy though, isn't it?
Yeah, it is crazy. Yeah. But
so when guys rock up to you, I think they're probably already primed to be having all of these tests and to be they're not, because this is what I was going to ask you. Is there a resistance? And men, we had this with Melanie Brown, like men are dragged in front of her sort of reluctantly. No. Is it the same for you as well?
Yes.
Oh, really?
Okay.
Yes. I'm sorry, Ian,
dragged by the short curlies.
I don't know if they're dragged or not, but whenever I have a consultation to explain semen analysis results, it takes me 40-50 minutes, and I feel like I'm having to almost just change the narrative completely. So that's when people first find me. I mean, if people have been through lots of failed maybe IVF rounds, or they've had a miscarriage, or they've had many years of embryos slowing down for no reason in a petri dish that no one can explain to them. That's a much easier conversation. But from the very beginning, we've still got a long way to go, I think, to really sort of be on board to have any further testing, because I think up until now DNA fragmentation testing has been very expensive, and it's prohibitively expensive as well, and also and accessibility as well.
I was going to say
yes,
exactly
Michael
that,
read
Claire,
my mind there.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, you two
so
connected.
So changing, and so I think changing, and what obviously Michael is doing is trying to well, not trying to do anything, Michael. When you do something, you do something. So it's changing. No, it's good. It's great. It's changing the, obviously the prohibitive costs. I mean, it obviously is going to be more expensive than semen analysis. It is a lot of work. It does take a lot longer to do, and it is a lot more of a financial investment for the clinics. But it is changing the costs and the accessibility for people as well. And then afterwards, what you do with these results afterwards is really important as well.
I think you're absolutely hit the nail on the head. And I always think about cost and value.
Yeah.
What is the value of putting your hand in your pocket and doing these extra tests versus not putting your hand in your pocket and never knowing whether you're going to be able to conceive or not?
Yeah, agreed.
And the regret and the the denial and various other things that has a massive impact on your mental health moving forwards, not only for you but for your partner as well. So when we talk about costs come up quite a bit, don't they?
Yeah.
With lots of people.
Isn't it quite strange? It never ceases to amaze me about this one thing.
Yeah.
If you're in a, don't be wrong, I worked in IVF clinics for a long time. They're amazing people and they do an amazing job. And there are lots of people, babies that are here that would not be here without IVF clinics. But I think the problem for me is that I suppose it's too much of a generic journey, and then to not sort of, I suppose, prepare beforehand, because as we all know, unfortunately the NHS usually only fund this for one cycle. So one cycle of IVF in the UK is somewhere between £5,000 and £10,000. It just, that's how much it costs. And if the NHS are going to fund one cycle for you, it makes complete sense to me to make sure that you have got your ducks in a row before you go in there. You wouldn't go into battle without a sword and some armour. So just understanding what the sperm quality actually is one of the few things that you can actually control in this whole process. So getting a fragmentation test is so important, because you need to understand if anything needs to be done before you get your one and only IVF cycle.
And of course, the blockers being that those guys that do have the tests, the answer has been ICSI. So okay, we've got high DNA fragmentation, we'll do ICSI. And this is, I think, what we're all saying is we've got to get these men out of this system and say, right, okay, if you've got high DNA fragmentation, you've got to go and get further investigations. You've got to understand where that's coming from.
And what you're going to do to
and
reduce
what you're going to do,
Exactly.
rather than try and work around it. And I think this is the other big kind of mission for us, isn't it? Is trying to get guys out and doing that rather than.
And it's got to be that investment in not only time but cost to get actually the answers that most men need, and trying to find out what that root cause is. Is it me? Is it my lifestyle? Is it what I'm eating, what I'm drinking? Is it something, or is there a testicular issue?
Is it a great big vein in your testicle that you can't do anything about?
Exactly,
eat or drink
that you're
or smoke
ignoring,
that
and
one.
you're not you're not even aware that it could be having an impact on your fertility. So it is that investment in time and investigating you as a person,
definitely,
and in a safe and controlled environment, which is with the best healthcare professionals that are out there.
I always find it an odd debate, cost of DNA fragmentation testing. I do understand it is more expensive than a semen analysis,
and yet
couples will roll the dice on another IVF cycle,
spend £10,000,
but they won't spend a few £100s on a DNA frag. And I think that there's such a miscommunication around. It's the word value. It is cost. It's value, not cost.
It's value,
and it's the value of that information. What you then do with that information,
definitely,
what that treatment pathway looks like. That's the value of a DNA fragmentation test, not whether you do ICSI or IVF. In my view,
if you even need to do any of those things,
well,
you might not need to. No,
I mean, we have a huge number of patients that conceive naturally and then are very surprised about it. They've been trying for maybe 1-2 years, and then they change their lifestyles or they have more intercourse. This is my message, everybody. Have more intercourse. Have
more fun in the bedroom.
Throughout your partner's cycle, please stop concentrating on what you feel is day 14, because let's talk about sperm.
Let's go either side, Yeah,
but they live for 5 to 7 days. It's like swimming the Atlantic Ocean in glue with a parachute behind you. So getting from vagina to fallopian tube takes time. And a lot of people or start having intercourse when their partner ovulates. Well, sperm need time to get up into the tube. So having more intercourse throughout the cycle. We say every other day between day 7 and day 21 of the partner's cycle.
Yeah.
And then we get an email 4 weeks later to say it's a miracle. Like, it's not a miracle.
It's not. We
you just had more intercourse and now
optimize the sperm. Have
that's
more
it.
intercourse.
That's it. Exactly.
Well, and the number of guys I've spoken to that, you know, that, like say, ovulation window 2 or 3 times across there, and this goes back to the F of frequency.
Yeah.
And that's it. They don't ejaculate because they're not having sex. They maybe don't choose to masturbate, and they wait until the next ovulation window.
And then wonder why it's not working.
Yeah, because the woman's getting 3-4 week old sperm. That's all.
It's funny, isn't it? You wouldn't leave a beautiful fillet steak in your fridge for 3 weeks and expect it to be tasty, would you? I mean, it's just a protein at the end of the day.
Yeah,
it's a good protein.
Yeah.
So you leave the protein in there.
Yeah.
It's not got anywhere to go. And I also really worry about when patients say to me things like that, say, oh, well, you know, like when they come for a semen analysis and their abstinence is more than 5 days, I always just ring them and say, look, do you know what? Let's not do a sperm test. Let's talk about the fact that your abstinence is 5 to 10 days and you're trying to have a baby. So rather than go through any need for any testing, why don't we just talk about the fact that you just need to have more intercourse? Just do that. You know, 5 days abstinence is not normal when you're trying to have a baby.
Yeah. And that could be a really nice top tip, couldn't it? Really, is
top tip.
Before you go and have a semen analysis with any clinic around the country, hopefully with you as well, is that make sure that you're you've got that window correct. So the frequency, I won't use the F word because that gets confused with other things.
We do that a lot though here. I mean, I don't know. I just think if we can not have to go through anything other than a conversation, how amazing will that be?
Awesome result.
And we have obviously, Toby, we have amazing results for just having a conversation and just saying, look, you know, don't have any tests with me, don't spend any money with me, just go home, have intercourse every other day between day 7 and day 21 for at least 2 months, and then if you're not pregnant at that point, come back. And then we'll have a more of an in-depth look and an understanding, because it is a lot for a guy to go to a clinic and go into a little room with a cup and produce a sample. I mean, I couldn't do it.
We know many stories of that.
Oh, the room.
The room.
The room.
I mean, I couldn't do it, and we need to change that as well, because
but that's Ian and I's mission at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're working on that.
You are on a mission.
We are on a mission at the moment. Yeah.
the room changing.
The room. Yeah.
I think the other thing is just preparing guys, isn't it, early before we do have investigative tests and looking at what are the typical risks that we should be thinking about. So and that's one of the reasons why we did the health questionnaire.
It's really good.
So and I think that really helps prepare guys to really understand what type of questions are likely to be asked. And if you're unsure or you haven't you've got an answer, you're going like, oh, I wasn't expecting that one to come up, and it's highlighted a risk. It's an opportunity then to discuss it and then understand why it is a risk and what can they do about it. And half of these risks you can just avoid doing things or improve your diet and various other things that can make a significant difference to your overall sperm health and physical health actually.
No, we're always sending patients over to you guys, because I mean, how many websites are there where you can actually get that information in a straightforward way, where you can understand it and feel supported by it. So
well, I think the feedback that we've had is that it makes it far more easier to have an open discussion with somebody like you about their fertility health, because they're already pre-warned about some of
what's going to come up.
What's going to come up. So you can have a far greater interaction and then have a plan to know what to do next. So
I love how real you are though, because you mentioned several times about just having intimacy, getting rid of the sticks, all that kind of stuff. I've been there, and I know what it's like, because there's an innate pressure that comes with the stick. It's like we need sex
I can't even
now,
imagine.
and
I
it's
cannot
got to
imagine
happen
how
now.
that must be.
It's horrible, because you're basically eliminating the reason why you're doing that in the first place, because it becomes
taking
a process.
all the romance and love out of it. All.
And as a man, you don't just want to be in a process, and the fertility world itself feels like a huge process. And the trouble is that from a patient, it kind of compounds over a period of time. By the time perhaps they get to see you, they may have gone 6 months to a year of, we need to have sex now. And the pressure that builds over time, especially if you chuck in there an early pregnancy loss or something that's been quite devastating along the way, then having intimacy becomes a really almost like a difficult thing, because the pressure, the fact that everything all just feels very clinical. The reason why you're making love in the first place is not any of those reasons.
No.
It's that psychological loss as well, isn't it? Every month,
yeah,
you know, you're going like, oh, we've just missed
you're building up for that
another opportunity.
Potential preparation for loss, aren't you? So it's really nice to hear, and really refreshing to hear you talk about this. That you're effectively a counsellor as much as everything else that you are, because you're able to have a really good conversation and kind of put light on the topic and talk so openly. And I think that's really, really important. And I think this conversation needs to be just normal. We just need to have more of this normal conversation.
Yeah.
I know. I mean, my son's 16 and I don't know. I would really like it to be a normal conversation, Toby. I would love to think that by the time he's having kids in 10 years, 20 years time, that he's able to talk to his friends about all of this.
Yeah.
Or, you know, like the guy that phoned us yesterday from the gym, you know, is able to say, look, you know, it's just something wrong with my body. I mean, I cannot imagine what it must be like actually to have to, you know, for want of a better word, become aroused and have intercourse when you know that you've got to do that. I mean, and it cannot be underestimated how psychologically damaging a lot of this is for men. And you're not allowed to talk about it because you're supporting your partner as well. And and I mean, women, that's the one thing about, you know, women, they do talk. They do talk and they do talk to each other about these things. But it would be nice to think that my son might be able to talk to his friends maybe because of the work that you guys are doing now, which is so important.
Yeah. Change
the stigma for my son if he's struggling with his fertility, so that he can just talk to his friends, talk to me, talk to his dad, and know that actually it's a problem with his testicles, not a problem with his manhood. Whatever that means, or your womanhood. You know, I mean, women don't get the diagnosis of PCOS or endometriosis and think, oh, I must have done something to deserve that. It makes me less of a woman now. They get treated, they get respected, and they get supported. And I think that's what I would love to see change. I mean,
how do you think we create that change? Obviously, we're doing what we're doing.
Doing what you're doing.
But is there other stuff that needs to happen in the industry or kind of government level?
Definitely, Ian.
How do we do that?
Okay, I think the NHS need to do that. I think they need to start the narrative from the very beginning. Woman and man goes to the GP. We're struggling to conceive. I think at that point, the GP needs to say to the women and the man, right, we're going to send you to a gynecologist. We're going to send you, sir, to a urologist. We're going to do all the tests to make sure you're okay. We're going to talk to you about how to improve things. We're going to send you for a DNA fragmentation test to understand if there's actually problems at the genetic level. I think you're right. This has to come from the top because people, I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't think our national health is perfect, but it's certainly a respected institution still. And I think that, I mean, people ask me, they ring up and say to me, is your semen analysis going to be accepted by the NHS? And I want to scream to them, we do 9 more tests than the NHS do, and 100% it will be accepted. And it's the other way around, actually. They're asking us. But so I would like to see this change from an NHS government level and change the way that men are actually treated from the very beginning. Because if it's seen as an illness, which infertility is an illness.
It is.
Like any illness that you have. I've got Crohn's disease. No one made me feel guilty about having that. They just said, here's your steroids, here's your immunosuppressants, here's your nurse, get on with it. You just need to start treating infertility as an illness, which is what it is. From the beginning, the GPs need to read the semen analysis correctly, not read the reference ranges and tell everybody it's okay or not. And maybe get more training. There needs to be more urology clinics. There needs to be more urologists sitting in IVF clinics. In an ideal dream scenario, my son, let's just equate it to Dan for a second. He would struggle to conceive. Obviously I'll be around, but let's say I'm not. Struggle to conceive. Go to see his GP. GP will send him to see Jonathan Ramsey or the equivalent at that time. He'll get diagnosed. He'll get all the tests done. He'll get advised. And then his partner will get the same. They'll be sent home. An MDT will talk and try and work out what's going on collectively together. Something will be diagnosed because I don't believe in unexplained infertility. I think we're undiagnosed infertility.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, we talk about that, don't we?
So let's get diagnosed and then say, okay, tubal factor, IVF. Or, okay, problems with the sperm. Let's do lifestyle operations, see if there's a varicocele, repair the varicocele. Let's actually do everything we can scientifically to help you get pregnant first. And if all that fails and we know why we're doing fertility treatment, then we'll do it. And give you, and then the NHS can fund it and have a much better chance of that working.
And be far more cost effective if we've
far more cost effective.
Yeah, and I think that's what the NHS want. They want more cost effective, diagnostics as well as treatment options, and they're not there. They're not there for fertility, not for men anyway.
No.
And that's one of the paths that I'm trying to go down and start challenging that status quo in the NHS.
Look at how unfair it all is, though. Postcode lottery.
Yeah.
In 2024.
I know. Yeah.
I don't get it.
Yeah. It's not
Why
right.
is no one actually saying anything about any of this? Postcode lottery. You live at number 1. I live at number 3. You get 3 free cycles, and I get nothing.
Yeah.
It's bonkers.
Or I've actually heard of one PCT at the moment that's refusing you if you had a miscarriage. So if you lost a child
because you've got pregnant.
That's right.
Yes,
or if you've got,
awful
high FSH, high AMH. I mean, our clinic actually does really well with high FSH and high AMH. I mean, I just don't understand it. I appreciate that some people have a better chance than others, but we're all paying our taxes. And if we're paying our taxes, why do we not get a little bit more, why isn't there more equality when it comes to provision of fertility, anything?
I think it all comes down to, knowledge and clinical research. There's been an absolute loss of, money's funding into andrology, hasn't there, really, over the last 30 years.
Yes.
There's virtually no funding, any grants that are available for andrology. And I think as a company, I've invested in 2 different universities that are pioneering in andrology research and academic sort of help. And, we've got so much information from those guys. It's really sort of changing the balance of what information is out there and what you can do to help guys that are struggling to conceive, or couples that are trying to conceive where it's male factor. And I think we need to do more of that.
Definitely.
I think if we were to encourage more research grants or matched funding for grant research in andrology, we might start actually improving that proposition and the cost effectiveness for NHS treatments. That's really where I think we need to think and focus on.
I mean, I think if IVF was more successful, so if I wasn't telling 1 in every 4 couples they were pregnant and 3 in every 4 couples that they weren't, I think it'd be brilliant. But it just shouldn't be seen as a one-size-fits-all technique.
No,
because as I say, it's great when it's done correctly and for the right reasons and with the right knowledge. It's a fantastic technique which has helped thousands and millions of people have babies that would never have had children otherwise. But we just need to do our due diligence first. That's all I'm saying. Let's just look into everything first. Let's optimize these soldiers before they go into battle. Sword, armor. Let's make sure that this is going to work for people. Because our NHS has only got so much money, and our people have only got so much money. I mean, we're in a crisis at the moment in this country whereby people have not got, I mean, people will say to me, can I go on a payment plan for a semen analysis? I mean, you can now, by the way, absolutely. I've agreed that is necessary. But, our insurance companies don't fund it, although that is changing a little bit now. That's exciting. Carrot and people like that. No, that's exciting. That's really exciting, actually. That will also change the industry in government, the NHS, and if our insurance companies start covering fertility, that will change everything, because the insurance companies will be more invested to make sure that cycle is going to work, because they don't want to go through 5 cycles of IVF. They want it to work first time. So they will be more invested in, like the American clinics, they'll be more invested in investigation first.
And it's about employers as well, isn't it? Where employers do have employee assistance program or a health insurance scheme. It's about trying to optimize, the employees and getting access to diagnostics and treatments to keep them in a working environment. They may wish to go off and have children, but they want those employees back because they're so valuable to them. So it just makes sense to me. Health insurance companies, if you're listening out there, do invest in diagnostics for men, not just for women.
But I think they are. I mean, I've had a few people recently. We're seeing more and more people want receipts for their insurance companies. So that is exciting. And things are changing, but
Well, I think it's important, isn't it? I mean, we talked about cost earlier on, but it's out-of-pocket expense for non-funded NHS, diagnostics. These are not, the advanced tests that we've got in our repertoire now as our armoury. They're not funded by the NHS. We'll continue to fight to see if we can get them funded by the NHS. But where they're out-of-pocket expenses, let's see if health insurances can just help. Their employers. It's the employers actually. The employers will pay for good healthcare cover, and it's just a matter of having the right healthcare cover provider to incorporate more of these diagnostics tests. So bit of a play out there.
Yeah, 30 years it is for me now, and the last 5 years have been more proactive and exciting than the previous, and. Hopefully there'll be more and more clinics springing up that are doing more of this, and more facilities where men can actually go to have these conversations and this narrative.
Yeah, I think it's definitely moving in the right way, and it's a huge battle in some ways, but I think the kind of the big stone is rolling now, and I think we're only going to gain more and more momentum. And I think all your work over the 30 years and what you're doing with Fertility Solutions and your passion and everything is, it's great when we can all get together and see that vision. What you're saying, the NHS, the GP testing, it's exactly the same as our vision. So it's really great. So thank you so much.
More collaboration definitely needed.
Open door policy.
But thank you so much for coming to join us.
You're welcome.
How are people going to find you and come and have one of these wonderful consultations with you?
Probably best just to go on the website, fertilitysolutions.co.uk. Best way to do it. And then just click on our new chat function where you'll actually speak to me.
Wow.
A real person.
Not a bot.
A real person, not a bot, everybody.
You are not a bot.
A real clinical scientist at the end of it. Yeah.
So, at the moment you can book in for a fertility consultation with me for £55. I mean...
Bargain.
Oh, that is a bargain.
I just figure the problem we have is that if you make it any more expensive than that, it becomes unreasonable and also inaccessible for other people. So it's a good 40 minutes with me on the phone, reviewing everything that's been done so far, understanding where we can go going forward. So that's probably the best thing to do if if you're struggling to conceive and you don't know what to do next or don't know which test to have done next.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah,
it's been
so
awesome.
Welcome.
To chat.
It's been fun.
Thank you for your time.
You're so welcome.
That's it. We're out.
And that's
That's
it.
it.
Over and out.
It's always hard. How do we end?
Take care, everyone. Have a great day.
Have a good one. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thanks very much. Bye.
Bye.